What's going on, guys? So in this video, what I want to talk about is Ormus, monoatomic gold. If you guys don't know what Ormus is, Ormus was discovered by David Hudson. Well, I guess it wasn't necessarily discovered. It was kind of rediscovered by David Hudson. And Ormus is, technically, monoatomic gold technically is gold, like the gold that you know, but in a different form, right? Because monoatomic gold is, it's also not just pure gold, because people call it monoatomic gold, but really it has many other Ormus. They call them Ormus metals. Like platinum is an Ormus metal. And the Ormus that I use is actually, it's monoatomic gold and monoatomic platinum. But there are some Ormus metals that are toxic, so not all Ormus metals are edible. And, you know, the Ormus that, you know, that people use is not, it's not the toxic Ormus, you know, parts. But I guess what I want to talk about with Ormus is the history of it. I'm going to say it right here, right now. I think, so I know a lot of people know about manna. If you've read the Bible, if you know anything about the Bible, you slightly might know that manna is a substance that was kind of created in a way back in, you know, the Bible times. Now, they said they had this manna machine, right? And there was this machine that created the manna. Now, in my opinion, I think manna is Ormus, monoatomic gold. Now, I've used monoatomic gold a handful of times, and in my personal opinion, it absolutely blows my mind that it's literally gold at the monoatomic level, and literally it does have effects in a spiritual way and in a different. It's not like it's like necessarily going to get you high. It's not like that. It's very spiritual and very connective. It's like when I take it, it's almost like I can feel it, like it's like I can feel all the parts of my body connecting and talking to each other a lot better. Like all the cells in my body are talking to each other. Like they're communicating better. It's like I can feel it in my mind. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it, just connection. I talk about plants a lot, and I talk about how certain, like just plants in general connect me to Mother Earth. It's like a connecting feeling, like connecting to the planet. With Ormus, it's not like that. With Ormus, it's like connecting with yourself. Like all the connections within yourself is connecting and connecting better. That's why David Hudson, you know, described it as it was like a superconductor, that it worked like a superconductor. And I can see what he means by that. And I can also see that if these people, you know, in the Egyptian times, if the Egyptians were using Ormus. Now, I had an experiment. Well, it wasn't necessarily an experiment. It was, you know, there was one time where I used Ormus in the morning, and then at night, I made an herbal brew with kratom, motherwort, and blue lotus. And, you know, there was like 10 to 11 hour difference from me taking the Ormus and me taking the, you know, the brew. And I've taken this brew before many times. And for some reason that time, and only that time, it completely floored me. Like, I was nailed to the floor, and I was stuck for 2 hours. Like, I was debating on whether to fucking call 911, and it wasn't that, like, anything was wrong. It's not like I felt, you know, I was breathing fine. I had no pain. My heart wasn't doing any weird shit. Like, everything was physically, like, okay. It was just an overload of euphoria that literally became dysphoric. And it was just, it made me think that if these people were using Ormus back in the day, they would have a lot more spiritual experiences, because a lot more things would be easier to make it work. It would, like, Ormus almost makes it so you need half of the dose of things. Or, you know, it's like, I don't know. Ormus is like a superconductor. It superconducts things. And it's very spiritual, though, because it's something that I would not take every day. You know, I couldn't take that every day. I mean, I guess you could, but I can't because I'm already taking other plants and other herbs. So it's like, it superconducts everything I'm doing, everything I'm using. And that was an extreme spiritual experience, because while I was nailed to the floor, like, I don't know, I had to close my eyes and basically meditate, and it was a visual meditation. You know, I had visions behind my eyes, and I think that there is something to Ormus. You know, there is something, and because it's not just me that talks about how Ormus is, spiritual. Ormus comes from sea salt, and Ormus, if Ormus comes from sea salt, then technically every time you eat sea salt, you're microdosing on Ormus. And if that's the case as well, then the Dead Sea and, the Mediterranean Sea, all these places that were dense with salt, so much salt, this is probably how, it was easy to get manna back then over in that place, because you can get manna from salt. It's like, or you can get Ormus from salt, but I personally think that manna is Ormus. So many people say manna is the mushroom, and I don't think it's the mushroom, because the mushroom doesn't require a machine. The mushroom just requires you to pick it. And I think that they were eating mushrooms, I do agree, but I just think that they were talking about something different when they were talking about manna. I think manna is Ormus, and man, I don't know. I've used it, and it's beautiful, and I feel like I can learn a lot from it. I feel like spiritually, I feel like I can connect with myself and help myself meditate, and I feel like on its own, it might be able to, push it, because my friend who has a YouTube channel, Quantum Kitty, her YouTube channel is, she also has Quantum Collective, I think, is her other YouTube channel, but she's also on Steemit as well. But she has experienced, she was actually the first, I think, if she wasn't the first, she was one of the first people that I learned Ormus from. I watched one of her videos a long time about it, and, she has a lot of experience with Ormus, a lot more than I do. But it's like, it at higher doses, it's definitely it's interesting as hell. It's fucking insane. And it's insane to me that it's monoatomic gold. Back in Jesus' times, the definition of drug didn't exist. They were just plants. So, there were just some plants were poisonous, others were not. And sometimes the psychoactive plants got classified as poisonous plants. And sometimes people were probably so hungry that they were like, fuck it, they ate the poisonous plant that said to be poisonous but not that poisonous, and found out it probably made them trip or something. But also with the Ormus thing, there is a process that you have to do to get it from salt. So that's why I think the manna machine, is perfect for exactly what that could have been. You could have got natural lye. You have lye back then, and that's all you really need is some lye, salt, water, fucking, and that's really all you need, man. And I mean, nowadays, well, and the other ingredient, I'm not gonna tell you all, guys, all the fucking things to make it, but like, I just all these ingredients that you have to make it, though, they could have easily got back then. There was ways to get those things back then. So it's just, put that shit in a manna machine and make your Ormus. And what's interesting is some people talk about with Ormus, and they talk about with manna that you could take, a little bit of manna and that you'd be alright all day. And some people say they baked it in bread. And I don't know, fuck it, maybe you can bake fucking Ormus in bread. I don't know why not? Back then, they were probably baking a lot of herbs and shit into things to make it more filling and more nutrient dense and more fiber and more whatever. It's like, I don't know. I just... It's to me, it's just a little, I just don't believe, I did for a while believe that it was mushrooms, up until I did Ormus, and I was like, dude, this makes more sense to me, and it's like, shit, if you mix Ormus, I can imagine people, if the Egyptians were on Ormus while they were using Blue Lotus, I think that would blow their fucking minds out, blow their minds. I think it really would. I honestly think that, yeah, because they talk about Blue Lotus was their entheogen, and it was also their party, their party drug, was their thing. Blue Lotus is amazing though. Many of the lotuses are amazing, but the Egyptian Blue Lotus is a little more interesting because I could see how it's a little more unpredictable, like a psychedelic is. Like, how psychedelics are just unpredictable. Most drugs, you know how it's gonna be and what it's gonna do. Where it's like alcohol, you know what it does, and you're smoking weed, you know what it does. Just those certain things, taking kratom, it's like you know what it's gonna do. But with psychedelics, you have no clue what the fuck it's gonna do. Whether you've done it 100 times, it's probably gonna do something completely different. It could be do something familiar. You don't know, and that's how Blue Lotus is. So I can imagine mixing, even just taking, if they took Ormus in the morning and then took Blue Lotus at night, like it would still be enhanced, just like my experience was, and it's like. That really made me think that, man, we do not realize how much psychoactive substances had a part, like the biggest part in reality. Like, we don't realize that these substances are why reality is the way it is. It's like humanity has been taking substances for so long, and it was only recently that we stopped taking substances, and that's the issue. When the church started demonizing these plants and demonizing these substances, if they could go deep down, if the common Christian in America could actually go to the Vatican and go see the things that they don't even allow anyone to see, you'd be like, holy shit. Or just go read the Dead Sea Scrolls yourself. Go read some other shit. Because a lot of the Bible stories came from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Go read the Dead Sea Scrolls yourself. And not necessarily because it's in a different language, but what I mean is, there are people that have been talking, and there are many other people that talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls. They have tried to decipher the Dead Sea Scrolls, and there's more information out there. Don't just trust one information source. And that's why it's like, that's why they probably called it manna in the Bible, but it was probably called something else back then that was more understandable. Who knows, because, the stories could be a little off, you know what I mean? And we can't just trust everything that we're told. We have to more trust what we personally experience ourselves, which is, after experiencing all these different plants, all these different psychedelics, all these different things, like from ayahuasca to mushrooms to, to LSD to even just the Syrian root seeds, feeling the Syrian root seeds and what they do by themselves in a way, or I guess with 30 milligrams of DMT, but it's a very light dose. It's just taking these plants that they would have been using back then, it really makes me think. Because I don't care what anyone says, Syrian root seeds, is inside of, the Quran. So it's like, whether it's Syrian root seeds or whether it's Ormus, I don't know if Ormus or if they mention manna in the Quran, but I know that there are psychoactive substances everywhere in religions, hidden. And it's not just in religions, because religions are just where we seem to be getting the information from, But it's like, in reality, it's just it's our human nature to use these substances. It's even said that wearing gold helps you feel better. And I can see why. If you can absorb monoatomic gold through the skin, then wearing gold might be able to make you feel better. Who knows? It's like, there is, man, I just think it's absolutely insane to me, because that means the definition of drug it's way too broad anyways, because that would classify metals now as drugs. We would classify, gold as a drug. We'd classify, if people were going through the real definition of drug, something that affects your mind or body or whatever the real definition is, it's like, because Ormus does have an effect. but like I said, it's a spiritual effect. It's a third eye effect. It's a meditative, connective. You feel like all your ideas and thoughts and mind is just more connected. It also helps boost other spiritual things and other spiritual tools to the point where it's probably boosted too much. It's probably dangerous to take with an MAOI. I don't know, like, who knows what these people were doing back then. You know, they were probably just taking plants, you know, not knowing, because that's just what it was. So the plants that they were using with, you know, if they were also using Manna, or if they were also using Ormus back then, you know, it's like, I can only imagine. It's absolutely insane. So, yeah, I'm gonna end the video now, because I'll probably branch off and start talking about something else. But, you know, but really, Ormus is so interesting. So interesting. And I don't take it that often. I take it probably like once, twice a month, maybe 3 times a month, maybe. You know, it doesn't really, you don't really take it that often at all. It's just, I don't know. It's beautiful and it's very interesting, and I can see that there is probably a lot of history behind it, and it's almost like a missing history. You know, it's very untalked about. It's very unknown. It's very unheard of. Yet, it's just gold, basically. You know, monoatomic gold, monoatomic platinum, the Ormus metals. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. But till next time, peace.